Parliament reopens today, and the fall session is shaping up to be one to watch. From a highly anticipated budget to new funding for defense, as well as major projects, the Liberals are going to be looking to fast-track priority policies, all within a House of Commons that will operate very differently from the session that came before. Joining us with more this morning is CTV News Chief Political Correspondent Vassy Kapelos. Great to talk to you this morning. Beautiful day to start off in Ottawa. Vassy, this morning, just to remind everybody, right now, the House of Commons sits like this. The Liberals have 169 seats, the Conservatives at 144, the Bloc hold 22, the NDP sit with 7, and the Greens have 1. We have the same government. We have, of course, a new leader in place who was there when they closed off last session. The NDP lost official party status, and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is now back in the House of Commons. So, what are you watching for, Vassy, as we start off today?
Well, your final point certainly kicks it off for me, right? This will be the first time that we see Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney face off against each other in their respective roles in the House of Commons. The dynamic between the previous Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and Mr. Poilievre was certainly like a defining factor of previous parliamentary sittings. So I'm very curious to see the degree to which the same is true or not of these two leaders. Like, how does that dynamic differ at all? Do their approaches to each other differ versus the Trudeau-Poilievre matchup? I'm very curious to see that. In the second, so that's the politics of it, right? Mm-hmm. The other part of the politics is certainly what you laid out, right? The Liberals and the NDP don't have a deal anymore. Both the NDP and the Bloc are signaling that their support for the Liberals is tenuous. So likely on big pieces of legislation, they are going to need to depend on the Conservatives, which again is a brand new dynamic. Mm-hmm. And then finally, Anne-Marie, policy. The House Leader, Steve MacKinnon, was on my program over the weekend, told me on numerous occasions this will be an incredibly busy fall from his perspective, meaning a ton of legislation, he says, will be introduced. That is also very different from the previous sittings. You know, if you go back there was none for months introduced. So different dynamic politically and from a policy perspective.
Let's pick it up there. The Conservatives, they are also in a tricky position because a lot of Prime Minister Mark Carney's signature policies, whether it's raising defense spending, fast-tracking major economic projects, they align some places with the Conservative agenda. The Tories, we know, supported Bill C-5 earlier this year. So if we see them to lend their support to further legislation, how do they do that while still differentiating themselves?
Well, I think we've already seen some preview of it, and it has to do essentially with accountability. So, based on principle, a lot of the policy that Mark Carney is putting forward, like in the hallways of Ottawa, you'll hear, wow, the first Conservative Prime Minister in a long time, right? Like tons of the policy that's going forward, as you put, is very much part of the Conservative playbook, the Conservative election platform. But opposition parties in the Conservatives and others have a very central job in ensuring that the government is held to account over what it's promising. So it's one thing to say you're going to get these 5 projects built, or you're going to increase the supply of housing, and here's how we're going to do it. It's another thing to actually get it done, which we learned, many years over a lot of time with various governments. So I think what we've heard the Conservative signal so far is like, thank you for these, propositions and proposals, but let's see if it actually gets done. But you're right, it is much trickier for the Conservatives to navigate when there is less dividing the two parties, at least from a principled perspective.
The so-called austerity budget is going to be a big-ticket item this session. It'll be the first budget we've had since 2024. It gives us just a glimpse at how Carney intends to fund some of this new spending while putting in austerity measures in place. So defense, along with a series of mega projects outlined last week, where's he going to find the money, and what are we going to lose as a result? Austerity means we're pulling back somewhere.
Yeah, I wish, Anne-Marie, I could tell you, because I have racked my brain looking through the Liberal election platform, which was somewhat detailed from a fiscal perspective, and trying to, I guess, see how it informs the language in which the government is using. Because he's saying it's going to be austerity, but also investment. You're going to cap the public service, he reiterated yesterday, not cuts through attrition simply. But let me put to you one simple thing. Last year, 10,000 fewer people over the last year worked for the public service, and yet still the amount of spending went from 70 to 71.5 billion dollars. So I'm not sure how they're going to constrain spending if they don't. If they're not being forthcoming about cuts, or if they don't intend to do any cuts. At the same time, they've already announced huge big ticket items, right? Think about just even the spending on defense alone, an extra $9 billion this year. So right now, I find it very difficult to reconcile. I'll add just a quick point. I think behind the scenes, it's a little hard to reconcile too, because I had a number of people on Friday reach out to me saying, it looks like now instead of the finance minister saying, which he has to CTV, the budget is coming in October, it might track later to the first week of November because things are so complex, let's say, behind the scenes.
You know, we reminded everybody off the top, this is a minority government, although it's felt at times like a majority government, given the speed of which some things have gone through. But the Liberals are in a minority position. That's important to keep in mind. So they are going to have to gain favor either through the 7 members at the NDP or with the bloc. But I want to pick up just before we let you go, Vashi, on these several items that we're likely to see up for debate in the coming weeks. That includes Bill C-2, which expands police powers at the border. There's, of course, youth unemployment, double the national average. And then this federal housing plan. We learned a bit about it just over the weekend. How are those debates likely to shape up? What will we see there in dynamic?
Well, I think I'll pick up on youth unemployment in particular, because as you point out, it is the highest it's been outside of COVID since 2010. It's double the national average. We have seen the Conservatives on numerous occasions tie it to immigration more largely, but even more specifically the temporary foreign worker program, and pitch getting rid of the program altogether. I think what you will see is a lively debate around immigration for one part, crime on another. And when you talk about those other pieces of legislation, if I were to pick up on the border bill, huge debate over privacy and whether or not this bill constitutes overreach. When it comes to housing, it's going to be all about, can they actually do what they're promising? To be fair to the previous government under Justin Trudeau, they had a pretty robust plan for housing in the last few years of that government. If you look at the CMHC data, housing starts over the last 6 months have pretty much been flat. So are they going to be able to do the things that they're promising to do? And I would add to that, as a final point, Anne-Marie, these major projects, right? We're expecting a second tranche of them before the Grey Cup in mid-November. Those ones are going to be more politically risky, harder to get across the finish line. And the big question is whether or not they will include a pipeline.
And we haven't even talked about Trump and tariffs in any of those discussions. So that is always the topic waiting off to the side. CTV News chief political correspondent Vashi Kapela is joining us from Ottawa to set up this day in Parliament. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.